Welcome back. By now, you should fully understand that pricing should not be the sole factor in determining what insurance carrier to use. You should understand the importance of shopping around and know the difference between an insurance broker and an insurance agent. You should now be able to differentiate between the levels of coverage and the impact each level has on your premium. You now have the ability to state several ways to lower your insurance premium. Also, you should now know what steps to take to protect your insurability. In part 3, we will talk about the types of insurance coverage and identify what you can do to minimize potential lawsuits. We will also talk about the role of public adjusters and explain why you should think twice before hiring one. Let's continue our conversation with LaTanya Simmons, Vice President of Aon Private Risk Management Company. Will you talk to us a little bit about the types of coverage? Because I know when you have a homeowner's policy, there's the dwelling, the personal property, and liability.
Right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
The dwelling is the house itself. So everything from the exterior, the brick, the roof, the gutters, anything that's on the outside as well as the inside. So the walls, the plumbing, the structure of the house. So when you see that number there that says dwelling amount 150,000, that's dealing with the actual physical part of the house. As far as contents, those are your personal belongings. So if you were to move, everything that you would then take with you, like the appliances, your furniture, electronics, shoes, clothing, linens, furniture, anything of that nature would fall under contents. The other, major piece of a policy is the liability. So this has a lawsuit trigger. So an example of this is if someone were to come onto your property, you were entertaining guests, and they were to hurt themselves. Maybe they fall down the stairs and are injured, and as a result, they then sue you. The liability portion of your homeowner's policy would respond. So it would take care of any defense costs that an attorney might charge, as well as any judgments or settlements against you.
So I want to kind of dive into a couple of these. So first, let's talk about personal property. Would you recommend, first of all, how do you, if you're having to file a claim, because I imagine, let's just say the house caught fire and burnt down. So we know we have the dwelling portion that will come into play. Personal property, how do you prove that?
Well, that's one thing. When you have a claim, don't discard anything. Take pictures, take video, so that you can show exactly what was damaged. Even if it's a charred couch, that does help to build the case of here's exactly what was in my house. So I think, probably the best way to document that is before a loss even happens. So if you wanted to write it down and take an inventory, or take a video inventory and go around your house, so that way you can really see you have 2 paintings on the wall, or you've got this type of island in the kitchen. So that way there's just less of a discussion if a loss were to happen.
So let's talk about this personal property. Now, I know on the deck page, or when you are giving a quote, the amount that is covered is based on a percentage. Is that the case for the personal property?
Yes.
So the insurance company has already determined an amount based on the value of the home.
Right.
And that is, what percentage is that?
It depends on the carrier. So again, that's another thing to kind of look at as you're comparing carrier versus carrier, that you want to make sure it's apples to apples, not apples to oranges. So some carriers look at 50% of the dwelling and consider that contents. Some carriers look at 75% and consider that contents.
And that's huge, because I had a friend who had a house that caught on fire, and everything in her closet is designer. Designer this, designer that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, she paid a lot of money for the clothing that she had. They did wind up getting her the thing. She wound up getting the money, and they wound up. She was able to. She had replacement value and was able to get that. But that's important, especially nowadays. So many young people have these tennis shoe collections. They may not own the house, but there's about 100 pairs of
$200.
shoes in there. You know what I'm saying? So I mean that's important. So now I think this would be under personal property. What if I were downtown and somebody broke in my car and stole my laptop? Your homeowner's policy will pay for that, correct?
It would.
See, look at that. I bet you a lot of people don't even realize that.
Yeah, they don't.
That, something could happen. Okay. I remember, I had your father come and talk at one of my workshops, and I remember him sharing, and you probably know the story, so I don't want to say too much, something happened to someone, and as a result, there was a loss of life. And it was not at the home. The person was not even a child of the homeowner, but yet the homeowner's insurance policy wind up having to compensate that family. How is that? I don't understand that.
Yep, that the liability portion covers the property. So whether it's the homeowner entertaining or they allowed guests to use their home and they invited friends and are entertaining, if a loss of life or an injury of some sort happens on that property, the homeowner's policy is obligated to respond. So that's why you need to be careful who you invite to your home or who you let use your home, because you're putting your homeowner's policy and those coverages on the line.
I don't think people think of that at all. I really don't.
No,
they buy a home, I'm going out of town. Oh yeah, my cousin's gonna come over and house sit for me or whatever. I don't think people realize that.
No.
And then two, if something were to happen, again, we don't know, because like you said, could be a loss of life, I pray not, or injury or whatever. Now claims are filed, and in the long run, it's going to follow you. It's going to affect you.
Exactly.
That's serious. It just goes back to my feeling that people are not educated on finances.
Yep.
LaTanya, I have a question that I must ask. This is for a person who kind of wrote in. They're dealing with a situation that I'd never heard of. They had a major loss as a result of a hurricane that we had come through about a year or two ago. And as a result, they made a decision to hire a public adjuster. I think it was their neighbor had done it and told them about this public adjuster. They got the public adjuster, and needless to say, a year later, they are still not in their house. Apparently, there's some major issues. I think the adjuster dealing with the insurance company, and it's a major insurance company that they're with. I think it has gotten so bad that this person wound up contacting the insurance commissioner, since insurance is regulated by the state. But the insurance commissioner, in essence, said that there was nothing that they could do because the person had entered into this contract with this public adjuster. I need you to tell us, what is a public adjuster, who that is, and do we need it? And I thought insurance companies had adjusters.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate story. Typically, it's not one that we hear much in Georgia, but it is something that I'm familiar with is in terms of Florida. What that is you're right. Most insurance companies do have adjusters on staff, and it's their job to estimate the damage, manage the process of the claim, and make the payments. Now, public adjusters do exist. They are third parties that work on behalf of the insured to try to reach a satisfying claims settlement. Now, they can be good. There are pros to them, that if you feel like you are not receiving the treatment that you deserve from your insurance carrier's adjuster, then maybe it's a good idea to get a mediator of sorts. If you also feel like you don't have enough information or expertise to manage the claim yourself, typically claims aren't that difficult to manage. It's your property and you know how it was before a loss happens. But some folks are not comfortable in doing that, so they enlist the help of a public adjuster. The downside, which I think is what this viewer wrote in about, is that once you involve a public adjuster, the insurance carrier adjuster can no longer deal with the insured directly. So all communication now goes through this public adjuster. And that's generally where I've seen communication break down. Also, there is a slight conflict of interest in using this public adjuster because they are paid out of the claim settlement. So it's in their interest to drive the claim up because that increases the piece of the pie that they're entitled to. So sometimes too many cooks in the kitchen spoil the pie, and that can sometimes be the case in the the situation of a public adjuster.
And that's one of the things this person was saying, which is why they went to the insurance commissioner, because of the amount of money this public adjuster felt that they were entitled to. And this person was saying something about it didn't leave enough money to apparently fully cover everything needed to be covered in the home. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And that's generally why the insurance commissioner will not get involved, because they're willingly involving a third party to work on their behalf.
So one of the things that you were saying when we were talking about in the beginning about insurance, your insurance agent, your company works for you. But when you bring in a public adjuster, you're saying, don't work for me.
Right, exactly. And it creates an adversarial relationship at that point.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So I realize, okay, we're talking to a national audience. People in Georgia, it's not, I believe I heard you say one time, it's not as necessary for you to get a public adjuster. Why?
Because the insurance climate here in Georgia is fairly friendly. That the insurance commissioner can step in and will step in and is working generally on behalf of the residents of Georgia. So there's not a conflict naturally occurring there. Certain states are more litigious, like Florida. They do have more losses, like hurricanes. And I think the consumers there may be a little less trusting, and that's why they are more apt to use a public adjuster. But the same types of things occur, and that's why Florida is experiencing really the hard market, that it's difficult to get property insurance in Florida. That carriers are leaving the state because it is so difficult between the hurricanes and catastrophes happening and the public adjuster situation, that they're saying we're going someplace else to make
So I guess basically your position then is almost, as the insurance commissioner told her, there's really not a whole lot she can do because she signed a contract with them.
That you should be able to work with your carrier, with the adjuster, and with your agent to come to a satisfactory resolution without having to involve a third party who knows nothing about you, the policy, or the company. And I know we've talked a lot about pricing, but pricing is not always the deciding factor. I think it's about the relationship that you have with your agent, and you should be able to call and ask questions and have your questions answered in a way that you feel comfortable, that you understand exactly what you bought.
So I was just about to ask you, since you started, for 5 takeaways, and that's the first one. That's the first one. 4 other takeaways.
I think another one would be, let's see, what's a good one? I think the replacement costs.
Yes.
Definitely make sure that you understand how the policy is going to respond in the event of a loss. Are you going to be fully made whole, or are you going to have to come out of your pocket a little bit more, or more than you might have expected? So knowing that on the front is the better way to handle it.
Okay.
Understand that you have power in your policy, that this is your policy. So if you're comfortable having a higher deductible, certainly making a choice of not something that's going to cause a hardship, but if you can, stretch a little bit, take the higher deductible.
I like what you said. You have power when it comes to your insurance. No insurance agent should dictate. This is what you have the power. You stop them. You ask questions. If they don't answer the questions to your satisfaction, you go somewhere else.
Exactly.
Okay. That's 3. I'm going to throw out 1.
Okay.
Make sure your deductible is no higher than, make sure whatever your deductible is, you've got that money set aside in the bank somewhere so that if there was a claim filed, you can at least pay what you're responsible for paying to get the repair.
Yep.
And one more.
I think the last one is going to be about claims. That
Okay.
certainly insurance policies are there to pay claims, but you also want to protect your insurability. That carriers can cancel you. Usually they will allow you 3 claims in a 3-year period, and after that they can make a decision to non-renew. So you want to make sure that you're making a choice to file a claim on something that you really cannot pay yourself. Don't file the small claims. Take care of that yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I've learned a lot, so I know our viewers have learned a lot. And LaTanya, as she said, she is with Aon Insurance Provider Risk. She's a vice president of Aon Insurance as a private risk advisor. I guess I said all of that right. So if you ever have any questions, have some insurance needs, then by all means give her a call.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Many people have financial questions and they don't know where to get answers. Now you do. We want to be your resource by providing you with educational information in a way you can easily understand from people you can trust. I invite you to send your questions to Ann at askannanything.com. Your questions form the basis of our show. Additionally, we offer live Zoom educational classes on home buying and credit that you will want to take advantage of. Remember, home buying starts with planning. For more information or to register for our course, go to askann.com. Now, if you enjoyed today's show, please click like and submit. I look forward to seeing you next time.